And welcome to Weathering the Storms of Life with the Rainses. Here, Rob Rains, Sally Tippett Rains with you, STLSportspage.com, as
Hi,
well as
Rob.
rainbowsforkids.org. Hi, how you doing?
Good. Hi, everybody.
Our unpaid camera person who,
Hope everybody's having a great day.
yeah, so got another quiz program for you today as we move on to the Busch 3, the stadium that opened in 2006. But we got some other current words for us first before we get to our
My
questions.
words of wisdom, my daily words of wisdom are the simplest ever. You're doing a great job.
Thanks.
We have, I mean you,
Oh,
I mean everybody out there watching it. We're all just doing the best we can with the
exactly.
information that's being presented to us, and I think we should all feel proud of ourselves, and I think we should all continue doing whatever it is that we're doing, and because we made it to now, right?
Mm-hmm. And hopefully we'll make it to tomorrow. So
Exactly.
the last couple of days we've gone through Busch 1, aka Sportsman's Park, and Busch Stadium 2, and then today we're moving on to questions about Busch Stadium 3, or events that happened since Busch Stadium 3 opened in 2006. So moving on to the questions.
Okay, question one. The Cardinals closed out their first season in the new stadium by winning the World Series. Who did Adam Wainwright strike out for the series clinching out?
On the Detroit Tigers that year, their opponent. Question two. In that World Series, Chris Carpenter, Jeff Suppan, and Anthony Reyes all started one game for the Cardinals. It was a 5-game series, of course. Another pitcher made it 2 starts in that World Series. Who was that pitcher? The only pitcher to make 2 starts in the 2006 World Series.
Question three. Since the stadium opened in 2006, two active players are tied for the most home runs at Busch 3 by a visiting player with 14. Who are those two players? We're talking about people on another team who
Mm-hmm.
came into Busch 3 to play.
Mm-hmm. Over the careers, yes. Question four. Albert Pujols. He's hit the most home runs in the new ballpark at 110. Who was second on the career list at home runs at Busch? With who is the Busch 3 second place hitter for most home runs at Busch 3 behind Albert Pujols?
Question five. One of my favorite players. Who has
Don't give it
recorded the
away.
most who has recorded the most saves in the stadium's history with 65
Mm-hmm. For his career
for
saves.
his career?
Mm-hmm. Question six. Since the new stadium opened, other than Albert Pujols, who would be kind of there for every record, 5 Cardinal players have hit 30 or more home runs in a season. How many of those guys can you name? Other than Albert Pujols, since the stadium opened in 2006, there have been 5 Cardinals who have had a 30 home run season.
Question 7. The Cardinals and Mets played the longest game in the history of the stadium on April 17th, 2010. How many innings was that game? So it's the longest game in the history of Busch 3.
Correct, both in terms of time and innings. And I have a story about that, which we'll get to once we get to the answers. Question 8. Game 7 of the 2011 World Series, Jason Mott recorded the final out by retiring Daniel Murphy of the Rangers on a fly ball to left field. Who made that catch to end the game? Who was the Cardinals' left fielder at the end of Game 7 of the 2011 World Series?
Question 9. In the World Series, David Freese hit a memorable home run and Albert Pujols hit 3 homers in one game. But another Cardinal more quietly also hit 3 home runs in the series. Who was it?
No, we're talking about the 2011 World Series again there, yeah. The other player hit 3 home runs in the 2011 World Series. And question 10. What is the most recent postseason series that the Cardinals clinched with a victory at Busch Stadium? Obviously not the series last year in Atlanta in the division series, but the last time the Cardinals clinched a postseason series with a win at home at Busch Stadium. Okay, those are today's questions.
So tell me about some of your memories of the Busch 3 or some of your thoughts about Busch 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially I was kind of, I'll admit I was probably a little bit disappointed in the stadium. I love the fact that you could look out and see the arch from home plate, behind home plate. The press box was the first year was left a little bit to be desired, but they did kind of make some corrections and some changes, so it did get better.
It left something to be desired because you couldn't see the
Yeah, it was
outfield
tough,
right
tough
from your
to see
seat.
up or home plate. Yeah,
Okay.
and it also had
But they fixed
didn't,
it.
didn't have glass windows. It just had little plastic windows that you know when it rained it was not good. So yeah, they made a few improvements. It was a work in progress, obviously, and I will admit that it's grown on me over the years. I thought there was some, if you were sitting in the seats, directly behind home plate, or the really, unquote, like, expensive seats or whatever, it was a really good sight line, really good view. I didn't think the seats were as good from lesser sections of the ballpark. But I think they've done a really good job of updating it, adding some extra things. The Budweiser Terrace, some other activities around the stadium, trying to keep it up and do a good job. So it's grown on me over the
I
years.
definitely feel like the Cardinals have been listening to fans when they've either expressed complaints or had ideas, and they've improved it a lot.
Hard to believe it's 14 years now since that stadium
I know.
opened.
When I was reading that question about 10 years, I was even like, we still think it's the new stadium, but
Yeah,
it's
well,
not.
no, it is. Yeah, so 25 years from now, we're talking about the next Busch 4. Probably. So, all right, moving on to the answers. Question 1.
The Cardinals closed out their first season in the new stadium by winning the World Series. Who did Adam Wainwright strike out for the series clinching out? It was Brandon Inge.
Correct. Of the Tigers. Question 2. Chris Carpenter, Jeff Suppan, Anthony Reyes all made one start in that 2006 World Series, but the pitcher who started 2 games, including the clinching Game 5, was Jeff Weaver, player the Cardinals had picked up in a trade middle of that season from the Angels. Okay.
Question 3. Since the stadium opened in 2006, 2 active players are tied for the most home runs at Busch 3 by a visiting player with 14. Who are those 2 visiting players? It was Joey Votto and Ryan Braun.
Makes sense when you think about it because they've had long careers. They've kind of been Cardinal killers for both teams, and they also both
sure
play
have.
for the same team in the Central Division, so they've had a lot of games in that ballpark. Votto with the Reds and Ryan Braun with the Brewers. Ryan Howard, the St. Louis native, actually hit 13, and he didn't play nearly as many games in that stadium as some of the other guys. Jay Bruce had 13 as well. Yep. Question 4, Albert Pujols, the home run leader at Busch with 110. Who is second on the list? It's Matt Holliday, who hit 88 career home runs at Busch Stadium.
And the next one is who had the most career saves at Busch Stadium? Trevor Rosenthal. And I do love Trevor Rosenthal. He is another person who helped us with Rainbows for Kids, and he also came out to your radio show.
Yep.
He's a good community-oriented person.
Now with the Royals, so wishing him the best of luck with
Definitely.
reunited with Mike Matheny when they get the season started again. So. And question 6, the other players other than Albert Pujols who've hit 30 home runs in a season since the stadium opened in 2006. Ryan Ludwig hit 37 in 2008. Lance Berkman, 31 in 2011. Carlos Beltran, 32 in 2012. Jed Jerko hit 30 in 2016. And Matt Carpenter, 36 in 2018.
Question 7,
and Paul Goldschmidt hit 30 last year, too. Sorry, I forgot about that. I have to correct my own answer. So it's an extra player, Goldschmidt.
Question 7, the Cardinals and Mets played the longest game in the history of the stadium on April 17th, 2010. How many innings was that game?
It was 20, and the reason I remember that for 2 reasons. One, I was not at that game. You and I were playing at a trivia night for a charity event that night.
Was that the rock and roll?
No,
trivia?
no, it was something with our friend Alan and Joni Protzel. I'm not sure what the charity was, but that was the year that BJ was working for Fox Sports Midwest, so he was at the game, and so I remember talking to him during the game while we were at the trivia night. What do you mean it's still going on? Blah, blah.
And then after the trivia night was over.
That you're not at enough. You don't. And that's the thing about a baseball writer. You don't want to miss games because you don't want to not be there when something happens.
Right.
So it's kind of like I always had a rule when I was working at Baseball Weekly that if I was at a game, I didn't really need to be at the game because then I didn't do game coverage. I was just writing features and columns and things like that. But I usually would go in time to do interviews before the game and stuff. But if I had some reason not to stay for the game necessarily, I called it my no-hitter rule, which means I wouldn't leave the game until both teams had a hit. So.
Yeah, most of those times you left was either for a charity or for something with the family or
Sure,
something like that.
right.
You basically didn't miss anything. And it's funny because when we have these memories, these quizzes, we've brought up a couple of times that you weren't there.
That's right.
And that's because those are the most memorable things. What is something from Busch 3 that you were glad you were at?
Well, I was at both the games that Waka had the no-hitter going into the 9th inning, so I would have liked to have been. I obviously wanted to be there if something happened. Obviously, Freeze's home run, all the postseason games, that have happened over the years I've been at. I don't think I've missed a postseason game. So just the clinching games, division clinching games, regular season clinchers, those kind of things. All right, question 8. That was question 7. Question 8. Who made the final out of the 2011 World Series by catching a fly ball hit to him in left field? It was Alan Craig. Alan Craig is also the answer to the next question in that same World Series when Pujols hit 3 homers. That was I didn't want to make it a trick question, but it was Alan Craig hit 3 home runs quietly in the 2011 World Series.
Yeah, I noticed Alan Craig was the answer of both of them. I thought, well, let him
I did that
read
on,
it in
I
case
did
I
that on
messed that
purpose.
up.
I did that on purpose.
The last question: what is the most recent postseason series that the Cardinals clinched with a win at Busch?
It was the 2014 Division Series against the Dodgers. That was the year that Matt Adams, Matt Carpenter both hit big home runs off Clayton Kershaw. But yeah, then they lost the next round to the Giants in the LCS, and they lost the Division Series to the Cubs in 2015. And then, of course, didn't get back to the playoffs until last year when they won the first round in Atlanta with that crazy last game. So.
And speaking of Busch Stadium, we got big news in the baseball world, which you're going to have in your newsletter, more information, and you're going to be doing
The
Zoom tonight.
owners and players are talking. Hopefully, going to have some resolution there at some point. I don't expect anything, imminently. I think it's going to take a couple of weeks to get it figured out. But we got some kind of a round table of some baseball writers going to join us tonight on a Zoom call. That'll be up on the site later tonight or tomorrow, so you can check that out and get opinions from a lot of different guys about what's going on and what we think is going to happen.
I've been seeing people posting, oh, baseball's coming back, baseball's coming back. I think it's
Still
going to be a lot harder
a lot
than
of hurdles to get over before we get to that point.
to get the players on board with it.
Yeah, I've been talking to some of the players, and they're optimistic and they want it to work out, but they also know that there's it's not a fait accompli yet at this point. So we'll talk about all that tonight. So we'll have this story up later on the website. So thanks for tuning in for this edition of Weathering the Storms of Life with the Ranges. We see you again soon here. Take care, everybody.